One thing is certain, we're not getting paid enough for this.
The Zoldyck family are a notorious group of well-renowned assassins that are feared even by the members of the underworld. Even Messiah Storm, a member of the Zodiacs, who are the highest ranked hunters in the association, was wary by the presence of two of the assassins. The Zoldicks are a family of 10, and there's a big range of power amongst them. Since they're a prominent group within the story, it'd be good to know how they stack up against one another and where they each stand in the world of hunters. Before we jump into it though, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy Hunter x Hunter content like this, and let me know what other topics you'd like to see me cover in future in the comments below. I'm not going to waste much time on Killua and Illumi as they're not prominent fighters and they don't have any significant feats. Killua took down an off-guard Canary who was strong enough to overwhelm Hunt Exam's Argon and defeat a blacklist hunter who had a 100-man gang at the age of 10. Illumi is a non-combatant type and primarily acts as the tech-savvy hacker of the family. At the bare minimum, he can open at least one of the testing gates, which is expected of all Zoldicks, which isn't that impressive as after 20 days of training, Gon, Kurapika and Leorio managed to open the gate, with Leorio managing to open 2 of them. Now with the trash out of the way, we can actually have serious conversations, starting with Carlito and Killua. Both Carlito and Killua have shown they're strong enough to easily beat Nen and Hunt's Chimera Ant's officers. However, it took Carlito using her Hatsu in order to achieve this feat, and she's also self-admittedly the weakest spider that was present at Zarzan's hideout, whereas Killua can defeat officer class ants like Ramot with just his bare hands and could completely blitz him after he was freed from Illumi's manipulation. This is consistent with later showings as he easily took down most of the Carabid Beetle's unit, and the officer Beetle admitted he wouldn't stand a chance in a 1v1. Mind you, all this is just base Killua, and to put this into perspective, even strong spiders like Finks and Bonalenoff couldn't easily beat officer class ants without using their strong Hatsu abilities. As for Killua's Hatsu, he transmutes his aura into electricity, and with Thunderbolt, he can even briefly stun and paralyze the likes of Yuppie. Knuckle correctly estimated that Yuppie had 10 times the aura of Morel, so Killua's electricity is potent enough to stun almost anyone in the series. Killua's ultimate ability is Godspeed, which electrifies him to grant him speed that's beyond the limits of his potential. Godspeed has 2 core functions, the first being Speed of Lightning, which allows him to control his body at super speed, and Whirlwind that allows his body to instantly react to an opponent's actions. Godspeed Killua is so fast that he can blitz Yuppie's perception and land multiple strikes on the Royal Guard, leaving him unable to defend himself. Yuppie deemed Killua so fast that he considered fighting him to be an uphill battle. Killua was also confident he can blitz past Illumi if it wasn't for the fact that he was protecting Alluka, so in terms of strictly speed, there's almost no one in the Hunter world that can match Killua. The downside to Godspeed is that it zaps away Killua's electricity rather quickly, so he can't fight at his peak for a long time. Some may contest this with Killua's claim that he can fight Proof all night. However, in this instance, he was only using Whirlwind, and it seems that Godspeed is extremely draining only when both functions are used at maximum effort at the same time. So with that said, it's no surprise Melioran suspected Killua to be as strong as a squadron leader just from his disposition alone. So far, the ranking of the Zoldicks has been pretty straightforward and agreeable. However, the debate really starts with the current top 3 of the family. Depending on who you ask, the eldest sibling Illumi is either the strongest Zoldyck or below the 2 seniors, which will definitely make this the most contentious part of the ranking. Some also think that Silva is the strongest because he's the current head of the family, but this is mostly conjecture. The main reason some have this opinion is because Killua is one of the most talented in Zoldyck history and he's also the heir, essentially correlating the role of the head of the family to one with the most talent or the strongest member. Although this could be true, I wouldn't say it's definitive. Anyways, starting with Illumi, the reason I'm comfortable putting him above Killua despite all he's done is because Sibone, who was informed of Godspeed, believed that at Killua's rate with the new skill he learned, he won't fall behind Illumi. So even though Killua might not have surpassed him yet, he's closed the gap a lot and he's on a serious pace to surpass him. After grading the level of the pro hunters at the chairman election, Hisoka deemed them uninteresting and resorted to targeting a member of the Zodiacs. This makes sense as the Zodiacs are the 12 hunters whose abilities were recognized by Netero and are called upon whenever the chairman desires a spot. Kanzai, who Hisoka ranked an 8.5 on his scale, considers the Zodiacs as stronger than the likes of Nov and Morel. Morel is one of the strongest and most intelligent Nen users who was able to defeat leader class Chimera Ants with his wits and abilities. Hisoka ranks Illumi a 9.5, stronger than Ginta, who was ranked a 9, so he's also above the tier of leader class Ants. That's where his scaling objectively ends. However, you can make some favourable interpretations for Illumi, such as his confidence in being able to eliminate Hisoka. Even Hisoka considers Illumi to be a worthy opponent, as he puts a bounty on himself to force Illumi into fighting him, so Illumi's confidence isn't without merit. It's also worth considering that Illumi taught Killua to never go up against a superior opponent, and unless he isn't one to take his own advice, Illumi's bravado might be credible. On the other hand, Zeno and Silva have had a better opportunity to show off their abilities throughout the series. Being capable of extending an N radius of at least 50 meters is an indicator of a Nen master, at least in the anime, and it's arguably implied Silva can extend his to double that, and Zeno's can reach 300 meters. They're also both far stronger than Chimera Ant leaders like Cheetu, who was one-shot by Silva. Despite Cheetu being off guard, Zeno says that it wouldn't have mattered regardless. The most serious they've been in a fight was against Crollo, who they teamed up to eliminate. In this fight, Zeno took more of the primary role and was definitely more highlighted than Silva. Right off the bat, Zeno was able to deduce the amount of conditions needed for bandit secrets and that Crollo wouldn't be capable of stealing the abilities in a 2v1. Crollo admits that Zeno's Gyo enhanced fist would be too much for his defenses to handle, and this is good stock for Zeno's Gyo AP, as it took the likes of Hisoka swinging a 7kg head to draw blood from Crollo. Despite changing his tactics from capturing him with the Fun From cloth, Zeno rendered his intent almost instantly, was able to graze him with the Dragon Lance and put the pressure on him to the point of putting bandit secrets away. Even though Silva posed a threat to keep an eye on, the moment Crollo's attention turned for a split second, Zeno was able to capture him and pin him down. But Zeno and Crollo later agreed that had it been a one-on-one, Zeno would have won against a Crollo who isn't going for the kill, but rather aiming to steal his ability. Crollo complements Zeno's intelligence and strength multiple times throughout the fight, which gives him slightly better stock than Silva, who had a more supporting role until the finisher. Speaking of which, Silva's aura orbs were so powerful that it roughed up both Crollo and Zeno pretty badly, to which Zeno called it a close call. The fact that Zeno suggested that Silva should do the finishing move, even if it meant killing him, could imply that Silva has more raw power than his father. This is supported by the fact that Silva's finisher dealt more damage to the both of them than Zeno's Dragon Lance dealt to Crollo, so splitting the difference between the two of them is pretty difficult, but I'll probably lean towards Zeno. A younger and weaker Crollo fought Silva in the past, and Crollo didn't comment on him as much as he did for Zeno. This could just be due to it being Crollo's first encounter with Zeno, as well as being the one to take the initiator role, but since we have to split hairs of the difference, Zeno's portrayed in better favour. Where it gets real dicey is how this stacks up to Illumi, and there's two ways of looking at this. A conservative scale of Illumi doesn't give him any stock above Zeno and Silva, and he's only proven to be way above the class of Chimera Ant leaders, which Silva can one-shot anyway. Zeno, and likely Silva as well, are both stronger than a suppressed Crollo who was able to endure a barrage of Zeno's punches, which should each be strong enough to one-shot the likes of Cheetu. However, a more charitable scale of Illumi is based on his confidence he can eliminate Hisoka and the respect Hisoka has for him. Hisoka is capable of enduring a barrage of Crollo strikes both on and off guard, and was capable of drawing blood from him with just a single successful counterattack. Unlike against the Zoldicks, Crollo is actually going for the kill and admits he's using the most abilities he's ever used to take out a target. Crollo also got stronger since York knew by developing the double-faced bookmark theme, which allows him to use a stolen ability whilst having both his hands free for combat. Not to mention that he prepared the right abilities and ideal conditions for months before fighting Hisoka in order to guarantee a flawless victory, which is the only reason why it was so one-sided. In the current events of the manga, Crollo intends to steal the Kakin royal treasures in order to boost himself to make sure he can end Hisoka for good. The fact that Crollo is hell-bent in preparation suggests that in a straight-up fight with the roster abilities he had access to in York New, he can't guarantee a victory. So in a general sense, Hisoka and post-bookmark Crollo seem to be on a similar level. Additionally, Chrollo was comfortably reacting to and countering the initial combos of the Zoldyck duo, meaning he wouldn't have as much trouble with them in terms of physical or hand-to-hand ability like he did against Hisoka. Silva actually notes during their fight that Chrollo's taijutsu had improved since they last fought, and it's most likely based on this encounter that the Zoldyck children are warned against targeting the spiders. Not only is this high praise for a younger Chrollo, but to add to that, he might not have used Bandit's secrets against Silva. I'm not saying this as a matter of fact, but Silva seemingly only learned of one of its basic traits in York New and might have only known of Chrollo's power to steal Nen abilities due to reputation. Not to mention Silva specifically commented on his hand-to-hand skills improving rather than the abilities of his Hatsu. So if a younger Chrollo's skill in hand-to-hand combat was enough of a display to be recognized by Silva, and Hisoka can deal with an older and stronger Chrollo's taijutsu who has the intent to kill, then it puts Hisoka's combat ability in a higher regard than the senior Zoldicks. If Illumi is genuinely a rival for Hisoka, who is comparable to Chrollo, then he would be stronger than Zeno and Silva, but a lot of this is just conjecture rather than any substantial evidence. Another thing that doesn't make me 100% confident in Illumi's higher interpretations is Hisoka's scale of Illumi in comparison to strong members of the Zodiacs like Ginta. The difference between Ginta and Kanzai on Hisoka's power scale is just as much as the difference between Ginta and Illumi, which could either mean Illumi's around the level of higher class Zodiacs, or Hisoka's scale is exponential, and the difference between a 9 and a 9.5 is a larger power gap than an 8.5 to a 9. By no means does Hisoka's power scale need to be linear, but it's unclear for now. Some also assume that Hisoka is grading himself as a 10 and judging others' strength in comparison to his own. Netero asking Zeno for help instead of the Zodiacs when it came to separating the Royal Guard from Meruem could mean that he holds Zeno in higher regard than most of the Zodiacs, but it could just simply be because of the relationship they built more than just his strength. Personally, I think Hisoka's scale is fine to determine a general ranking, but there are too many unknowns to determine strength gaps between each number. Just for my own peace of mind, these three could be considered within the same tier amongst the family. However, personally, I'd probably favor Zeno and Silva in most cases while being open to Illumi's higher interpretations. When I ran a poll on these three, most people thought Zeno was probably the strongest, which is a take I'm also comfortable with as well. The last three Zoldicks are Alluka, Maha, and Zigg Zoldyck. It's been theorized that Zigg and Maha are the same person, and that Togashi essentially changed the elder's name to Zigg. I don't really know why people think this, but my guess is that in the Hunter Guide, Maha seems to be referred to as the great-grandfather rather than the great-great-grandfather, who would be Zeno's grandfather. His age is also listed to be 98, which could be retcon, but for the sake of this conversation, I'll be referring to Maha as Zeno's grandfather since they look alike, and Zigg could be Zeno's father or some other Zoldyck. Nonetheless, Netero was the strongest Nen user in his prime, so it's not a knock against Maha that he couldn't assassinate him, but it still speaks highly of his abilities. Zeno concedes pretty hard to an old Netero and considers the likes of Chrollo to be a tough opponent, so Maha being tasked to fight a prime Netero could potentially rank him stronger than the current Zoldicks in his prime. As for Zigg Zoldyck, there's nothing much we know about him aside from being part of Netero's expedition to the Dark Continent. The fact that he's able to survive in that environment says a lot about his strength, as Netero deems it a battle against Mother Nature itself where no victor exists. Netero tasked the Zodiacs to successfully explore the Dark Continent and come back with hope, so it seems that he believed that they would be somewhat capable as hunters, which at the very least portrays Zigg to be of that caliber. Lastly, we have Alluka, who unlike the rest of her family, she's a normal child with no combat ability. Even the regular civilians that Illumi had controlled could kill her. She's confirmed to be a specialist, but her abilities are as a result of hosting Nanika. Togashi confirmed that Nanika is the gaseous life form I, or AI, which originated from the Dark Continent. The I species are extremely deadly, and are graded with an A rank threat level which is higher than the Chimera Ant species. Her main ability is to grant wishes, and the limit to which she can grant might be infinite. All we know is that the greater the wish, the more difficult the next request from Nanika will be. Due to Killua's relationship with Alluka, he's the only one that can circumvent the consequences of having a wish granted. I'd be here all day if I had to break down in detail how Nanika functions, but for the purposes of this video, that's the main idea you need to know. Killua commands Nanika to lift the Nenval off Gon and heal him, which can only be done if she was touching the body. During the healing process, a large amount of aura is released, which caught the attention of Illumi and everyone present at the chairman election. Some think it's unclear whether or not the aura is Nanika's or the aura of Gon's Nenval, but to me it's pretty clear it's Nanika, as Illumi reacts to it desiring Nanika's power. So to sum it up, Nanika doesn't have any combat potential, however with the command of Killua, she could grant wishes that could potentially eclipse everyone in the series. That's about all there is to say about the Zoldyck family, so let me know what you think in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, share what other topics you'd like to see covered in future. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. I've been the one and only Zagg, and until next time.